Greetings. Welcome back to this podcast, a message to no one. Do you know who you are? I don't know who I am. I don't even know what I want. But we are in times where there are a lot of talks about knowing who you are and how that in turn has a tremendous impact in your life, in how your life should be, and how those experiences that are in your life are shaped just from knowing who you are and what you want, and all these important facets of yourself. What is a self? Please join me in this conversation about the identity crisis. I'm calling it identity crisis, a crisis because I think it's a fitting term, because it has been a journey of finding, of looking, searching, finding, losing, knowing, not knowing. It's been a journey of, when you try to grab a soap in water, and as you grab it slips, and because it's just deep waters, then you look for it again, over and over and over. It's just one soap until you see it. Maybe in the looking you realize that, what if as I'm staring these waters, I'm actually obscuring my own view. Then you stand still. As you stand still, then you see the soap over there in the bottom of the water, and then you try to go and grab it. As you grab this, it slips again. Now, this is just a representation of this journey of searching, finding, and it slips away when you try to hold on to it. But let us have this conversation. I'm calling it a conversation on purpose, because if there is listening and speaking, now during the listening there is also the processing, there is also the pondering, there is also thinking, there is also imagination. I'm calling forth all of those into this conversation. Let us have this conversation, and with all of those, this will be a conversation. So I start from the fact that I do not know who I am. Who am I? And I don't even know what impact. How could I know if I don't even know who I am? So how would I know the impact? And in this seeming journey, there has been the finding of something that I could stand in high hills or in the mountain tops, and and tell people about these findings, because there is also confidence in knowing, So as part of this conversation, there is also a podcast or an episode that was recorded, I think, in November 2022. It's I think its title is Introduction to Yourself. And in that podcast, you'll be amazed. I speak so confidently about knowing who you are and describing these phenomena of the self, this self, and how powerful, how these distinct characteristics that this self has. Wow, like it's wow. And now I could listen to that, but it does sound to me like how I used to describe the self as when I started school in primary, So there was a sense of self back then, and the sense of self that I could stand in front of the class and tell the class about myself. This is myself. My name is, I am 6 years old. When I grow up, I want to be a policeman. All the inspirations, they point to self, and it doesn't really matter if those inspirations are not fulfilled, It's what matters is that those inspirations that are set at a time are pointing directly to the self, the sense of self. So seemingly the sense of self that I felt so confidently about, literally about 8 months ago, has seemingly disappeared. I'm left with a shell of self. So now this journey after that primary school years, they developed sense of getting into adulthood, and there was a self there, right accumulation from that initial sense of self to whatever, because of knowledge, beliefs, and everything that was gathered at the time, and then there was this self, and if you could put two together, I don't think they would recognize each other. The self that was going into primary and the self that was going to high school, So this is the dilemma I'm speaking about, and I'm not stretching it to like today, because though these are strangers, and I'm also touching the part of aspirations and goals and all of those things, because it does seem sometimes that there is a progression, there is a continuity of self, that the self is going through time, that these versions of self that I'm speaking about, the younger version gave rise to that older version and up to this one that doesn't even know who they are. So if that's the case, like how could you develop to something that you do not know, because as I'm saying, they can't even recognize each other. So these are not the same things. It seems like one dies and the other rises, So this is the dilemma. This is the identity crisis. It's the identity crisis because it's a constant definition, the constant restructuring of this, the constant shedding of this self. And I don't know if I should go there yet. The self and the sense of self. Are they different in any way? Because there is a sense of self, There is a sense, like sensing how this thing is like, but not really knowing what exactly it's like. But this is the crisis. This is where the crisis is, This is where the crisis is. So I'm just coming in here and saying that I don't know who I am. Now, since I don't know who I am, I don't even know what I want. I don't even know what I want, But I'm also asking the question, does it matter? Does it matter in anyhow if I do not know who I am? Does it matter? What does it change about who I am? The knowing and not knowing. What's the difference in knowing and not knowing? Don't get me started with words. So yesterday I was speaking about words, that these words are actually implying. So what is implies what it's not. Therefore, in one word, you find a variety of things, that you are not even looking for. So what is knowing? In knowing, there is unknowing. So knowing is unknowing. But let us come back to this identity crisis. And so, our minds are trained, they're trained for, so whenever you say something is a crisis, therefore it needs to be solved. If it's a mystery, we need to solve it. Why don't we solve it now, And maybe let me just, as a disclaimer, and remind you that in this podcast, it's just what is. We just speak about what is, and even our speaking always falls short because what is already is, whether I speak or not speak. what is doesn't need to be solved. It doesn't need to be solved. So there could be a crisis. If it's already a crisis, why bother solving it? It's already is what it is. it's already this, So yeah, so this is the identity dilemma that one finds themselves in. And so trying to solve this, does it need to be solved? Because it's already a crisis, It's a crisis because it keeps on coming. It's coming and going, coming and going. Like I said, I can't even count these, let me call them versions of me that come and go. This version of me that come and go. It's like, it seems like one needs to disappear for the other to come. And also that's not the case sometimes. Sometimes these versions they can just be here and be displayed or expressed to different people. And you find that Mark knows you as this version, and Mary knows you as this different version. And that's okay, But it's also the identity crisis I'm speaking about. So which is which here? Which is which? What is the real identity of me? Is there anything of such? Is it a problem if it fluctuates, if it's changing? So this is the identity crisis, and and I'm just here, I'm just here looking at these, these changing versions of me over time, and now that I'm looking back, I'm also asking the question of control. Did I have any control in all of those versions appearing and disappearing? Did I have any control? Did I make them appear? Did I make them disappear? What sort of control? How much? To what extent did I have control in those versions of me? And even to define them, whatever definition I gave to these, did I have a choice? Would I call them something else? Why didn't I? So this is the identity crisis. Is it really my crisis? Now I like these questions because they just appear like these versions of self, They just appear like before I even think there is a question. Yeah, so you can only imagine how these questions play out to different versions of people out there. Like It's so crazy. It's so crazy that these identity crisis sometimes I can take it to be my crisis, Now, as I'm saying my crisis, so what's speaking there, it's just one version, just to so there is sometimes a version which tries to be to assume the ownership of all the other versions, and then try to be a spokesperson for those versions, and decide that now this is a crisis, and this crisis needs to be solved right now, It needs to be solved right now. Like I said earlier on, there is a notion that once one knows themselves or know who they are, then that would have tremendous impact into how their life unfolds. There is also that notion, and now when you look at that, it seems like there is just this version which shows up and assumes ownership of everything, and then it announces that, what, now that I have defined myself as this, therefore I would like to announce that everyone needs to know who they are, and that will have a tremendous impact in their lives. That would have a tremendous impact. What is impact, So these versions, they would have all these wrong predictions about what to come, because there is no versions which knows the other versions which is about to unfold. There is no version which knows about the other version. Sometimes you speak about the better version of self, the highest version of self. and not realizing that what is saying that it's actually just one version, and it's assuming that it is being purified, and it is being fashioned into these beautiful high version of self, when in natural facts what is going to happen, this one will disappear for the other to appear. So there is a version of you who wouldn't listen to this and get to 20 minutes of this nonsense talk. Where is that version? So this one can listen up to 25 minutes or even the whole episode, of this guy who's speaking nonsense. They don't even know who they are. Like, how can somebody who doesn't know who they are and tell me anything? I'm just rambling here. I know I'm rambling. I know I'm not the best version whatsoever. What is the best version? Anyway, so this is the identity crisis, And so it's just to see it as it is, that sometimes there is, like, I don't wanna say this as a lesson or something, because this is not what I'm about. And this is not what this podcast is about. It's not about teaching anything. It's like the only thing I'm trying to do is trying to point out what cannot be pointed out, trying to illuminate what is already clear, what is already illuminated, what is already is, so this is it. It's just a bunch of unknowns going around. Nothing is known here, not even people. It's just unknown. Everything is unknown. That is why what is known keep on changing, because what is real, actually, it is not known. So this is about dissolving each and everything that you know. I like the fact that what is also what's not, What is it also what's not? But so this is the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you who listens to this rambling. This is just a rambling guy about non-duality. So thank you.